All right, guys, how's it going? What we're going to do here first, I'm going to make a two-part video for adding events to the site. Part one is going to be just kind of a higher level overview of where the stuff on the site is coming from, as where it's coming from in the background, what is generating this content. And then in the second video, I'm going to go through and just build one of the events. So basically, a little bit of terminology here first. On the site, this is the music page, and if you go back to just the home page, this is called the archive, and essentially, it's this same thing right here. So when you're on either of these pages, it's the same content essentially. Um, so we're starting out with 620 because this hasn't expired yet. It's still showing up. Once it becomes, 621, this post is going to go away. I've got these set up. We're showing all of them here. We've got it set up to show 31. On the front page, we're showing 7. If you wanted to, we could have this start at number 8 and go through 31, but I think it'd probably be better to have everything all inclusive. It's a little redundant to have it twice, but I would hate someone to just show up on the music page and all of a sudden figure out, like, oh, well, where are the shows for this week? So that's something we can discuss later, but I think it's better to have everything all listed at once. Anyways, moving on. Again, this is called the archive, so it's just pulling 1, 2, 3, and then this is a single. So this is just one event. And there's some really weird, funky business going on here. I got these screens at a crazy size, so excuse that as we go through this whole thing. But yes, I realize that's not right. Okay, over here in the dashboard, this is obviously the dashboard, and we're at home. This is the modern, I don't know if you guys have seen this one or not, but this is the WordPress 5 point whatever. We're currently at dashboard, and then events. This is the Modern Tribe events plugin. We've got categories, venues, we only got one venue, settings down here. Import kind of works, but I think you need to pull it from another of the same events thing, so we'll discuss that later. But anyways, under events, we're going to have a list of all of them. And there you go. Again, excuse the screen being squeezed in this weird angle. I'm just trying to get everything in one viewport. But we're going to look at the Swindler one because this has some extra stuff going on that you're not going to use for every post, but I think this is a better example to show you for what we're working with. So basically, this is what's called the, at this point, it's the classic editor. I intentionally did not bring in the 5 point whatever Gutenberg editor. So, so these are all like the basic components that are part of the WordPress thing, and then that's running archive, and then everything that's running in single is coming from the from in here under event post. So I'll go through these kind of step by step here. We're going to start with archive. So on archive, this is our title, and go ahead and include the date because we're not pulling the date as an individual thing here. This little guy is called a pipe, and you'll find that if you do a shift and it's the key above return, gives you a little vertical line like that. If you want to go with a dash or a colon, either way, I just think the pipe's kind of cool. It sort of breaks it up as like, hey, title, and then there's something else. It's totally up to you guys what you'd like to use in there. You see these around the internet a lot, so I just kind of wanted to go with something that seemed conventional. So that's the title. Next up, we've got this is the excerpt, and that is right here. So I moved these sections around inside of the post. So the stuff that you're using is basically right up on top. It's just gonna make it a lot easier. Um, we're allowing comments, but I have them turned off in here. If we want to add comments, or actually in here, excuse me. If you want to add comments to the shows, we can do that, and then we'll have those set for approved through moderation, and they'll come up in here, and then you'll have to like actually go into the dashboard and say, oh yeah, go ahead and post that comment. That's cool. So we can discuss this and allow or not on that when we get there. This is going to actually show the comments, or you can drop your own comment in there to fire it off onto the front page. And then down here, we can get into SEO a little bit. I don't want to get too crazy with this, but this section right here, again, is the same as this, which is the title. This right here is coming from this, and it is basically pulling what's called the permalink at this point. But if you wanted to customize that, that's totally cool. You've got these little keys in here, maximum 60 characters. And then this meta description right now is kind of automatically pulling, again, the excerpt, which is right here. For the excerpt, you can kind of see that we've got two bands. So I just grabbed the first sentence out of each of those two paragraphs to populate this thing. However you want to do that is however you want to do that. Moving on, over here on the single again. Oh, back up. I'm sorry. Over here. So title is up top. Excerpt is right here. And then this dude is the primary featured image. I've got these set up as squares, which looking at JP's formatting, he's got a lot of different templates and content for making squares. So that's sort of the method on this thing, is to have these in squares. You can see these guys, they got cropped. So it just sort of basically is going to take the guts of your featured image and crank it out as a square. So that's basically the 1, 2, and 3 of what shows up on archive. And then now we're over here in single, and we're going to be pulling basically all that content out of here. So now this is the poster. Here's our display title from here. We don't need the date on that because we have it here. And this is pretty tight. It's just a date picker. Just click whichever the date is. Doors at. Here's doors at. One hint when you're working on this, if you have this guy like higher up on the page and you click into here, the whole thing is going to display, as compared to if you have this guy way down at the bottom and you click it, you can get kind of funky. I think that's because I already picked the PM time on there. It starts with the 9 a.m. as a default. Anyways, but I've got these little keys, little hints typed in here on each of these. But then the show is at 10. Full text is this and this. It's all this content. Here's a little thing I messed up on, but I will fix it before we send it out for you guys to work with. This is the full text for the show. If you need to break up paragraphs, insert, and it's this. But by adding this little bit of content right here is where it was, essentially. It made a break between this line and that line. So I'll see what I can do to fix that so you can see it in there and actually just copy and paste it into there. If we did 2 of these, which may be probably not a bad way to go, and update this. Update. Yeah. and then refresh this over here, it'll actually do like a full-on break between two paragraphs. And again, I'll go through and make that proper over here. I can probably even do something so you could just actually get in here and copy a little section, copy and paste it in there just to make it easier for you guys. We can also, this is probably overkill, but if you wanted to, we could add a little bit of code to make this in bold, just so it pops out a little bit more if you want. Again, that's just something we can adjust or fix as we're moving on. But scrolling on down the page here, we've got buy tickets, and then here's the link for the ticket, and then this one's just generic. I just plugged it in there because I was testing this. I wanted to have that show up. And then the tickets button is buy tickets, and this is literally what is going to be written in here. Same follows for this and this. This I can change out if you want and just have it say buy tickets all the time. I'm just concerned that the way I have it set up now is that if there is not a link, this button won't show up. Let me go ahead and delete that and then update this. I just want to prove a point here to myself anyways. Once you update, hello. There we go. And then refresh over here. Perfect. Yeah. So if there isn't a URL in here, this button won't show up. And that goes for the band URL and the second band URL. And then I kind of dropped these in, like, the first band is going to be, because it's double bill, we've got Swindler and Far Out West, so it's sort of like band URL and then second band URL. If you want, I can add first and second in here, so it makes a little more sense, but I figured this is just, as we're going down the page, you can fill this one in if there's just one band and fill in nothing in here, and then there won't be a second button at all. So it's kind of overkill a little bit. Continuing down in here, this is sort of auto-populated from the WP, the Tribe, Modern Tribe plugin that we're using for the events. And then in here is the events calendar. So this is going to need to be filled out as well, but we're going to have a start date and an end date, start time, end time, locations, just there's only one selection under there. This isn't really necessary. We can plug in the URL there, but if someone's looking at it, we're already there, so that seems redundant. And then the cost, and then all of this stuff inside of the events calendar here is coming through and showing up in the actual event calendar once we jump over here. And this thing is still a little finicky, like, hey, here's July 17th. No, that's today. Oh, it's asking us to go to July. Okay. But the 15th was Life During Wartime, so that came and went. I'll fix this title here so it shows up in the same font. But yeah, so it was like, and why is that doing? That's weird. I'm going to check in on why it's displaying those times. I'm sure that's not the time I punched in. Might likely just have the time zone wrong. I'll go ahead and fix that. But yeah, this content is coming from, looks like a combination. This is probably the excerpt again. But yeah, so that's just kind of a little overview on what's coming from where. And then the main thing is, after you fill in all the content, hit update. We've got event categories, but we're not really filtering by category anywhere, but I'd say just click live music, and then we can also do some stuff with tags too, but that's for another discussion. That's a 15-minute overview of what is showing up where from the dashboard. All right, I'm out of time.